guys, welcome back to another chapter book read-alouds with me, Molly. Today we're going to read another few chapters of The Birthday Ball by Lois Lowry. If you remember where we left off last, we just ended chapter 3 where Princess Patricia Priscilla has just met her chambermaid, and I think a friendship might be starting to form there. So we are going to start chapter 4, called The Disguise. Miss, I couldn't. Don't be silly. Of course you can. First the apron. I want to see what dress you wear beneath the apron. Nervously, the chambermaid untied the sash of her starched white pinafore and let the white apron fall loose. She pulled her arms free from the ruffled shoulders, folded the apron, and laid it on a pink damask chair. It's quite ordinary, isn't it? The dress, I mean. The princess examined it and felt the homespun brown fabric between her thumb and forefinger. I think it's nice. The chambermaid spoke a little defensively. I never had one so nice till I come here to work. Of course it's nice. I simply meant that it's quite ordinary compared to the satins and organdies I have to wear every day. Tell me something, Tess. Would this be the kind of dress a village girl might wear to school? Tess wrinkled her face, thinking about it. She said, I guess. Maybe more raggedy and patched for most, and not with shoes. She looked down at her feet, shod in sturdy buckled leather over thick black stockings. No shoes? No, miss. Not in this weather, at least. In winter, when it's cold, maybe clogs. But these, she pointed to her feet with a certain amount of pride, these here are castle shoes. Well, you keep those on then, and your underclothes. But give me your dress. My dress? Why? It's a command. Tess sighed, curtsied, and began to unbutton the simple brown dress. There now, tell me what you do think. Do I look like a simple village girl? Princess Patricia Priscilla stood back and posed against the embroidered draperies that framed the large double window. She was wearing the homely dress, and her feet were bare. The chambermaid, wearing her muslin undershift, her bony shoulders and arms exposed, looked critically at her. Hair too fancy, feet too clean, she said after a moment. I was afraid of that. I could fix the hair, I guess. Do so, then. The chambermaid mussed the princess's long curls and then braided the hair into 2 uneven pigtails. Shall you put a ribbon at each end? The princess asked. Oh, my, no. That would be princess-like. Here's how we do. The chambermaid removed the sprigs of flowers from the crystal vase on the breakfast tray. Deftly, she tied the ends of the braids with twisted flower stems. Oh, I think I look wonderfully rustic and primitive, said the princess, standing before the long looking-glass. I'll dirty my feet when I'm outdoors. The chambermaid, standing beside her, staring at her own reflected image, groaned. Blimey, I look bare naked. I'm downright humiliated. Here, the princess handed Tess the dressing gown that was draped on the bed. Put this on and wear it till I return. I can't, miss. They'd see and I'd be punished. No, no one will see you. You stay right in my room, and I will leave instructions that no one is to enter. Look over there, Tess, at the bookshelves, filled with books. You said you could read. You may read any book you want. That will pass the time while I'm gone. The little freckled chambermaid stared in rapture at the crowded shelves. Lordy, she breathed. I hope my ma is looking down and can see this. Me in silk, with boots. I'd be excited about the books, of course. And here's an illustration of Princess Patricia Priscilla and her chambermaid Tess. Chapter 5, The Escape. Princess Patricia Priscilla, her homespun dress hidden under a cloak, made her way down the castle stairs, followed by Delicious, twitching her thick tail. She knew that she would not encounter her father, and an old nursery rhyme contained great truth. The king was in his counting house. The princess's father, King Lepidoptera, this is a really weird name, King Lepidoptera, spent most of his time in his counting house, which was a separate small building to the left of the West Tower. He was not there to count out his money, as the rhyme described, because a team of exchequers worked continuously on that task in a vast room called the vault. I hadn't heard that term before, which was in a secret location. There was a great deal of money, more coming in all the time, taxes and tributes and tithes, and 14 highly intelligent money managers counted and sorted in 24 hours a day, making lists and notes and calculations with quill pens. The counting house was different. In it the king kept his vast collections of butterflies. He acquired them, sorted them, organized them, and labeled them. He had old shelves and drawers removed and new shelves and drawers installed. A team of skilled carpenters worked on nothing but the king's collected cabinetry, though from time to time one carpenter might be summoned to the castle briefly to repair a wobbly chair or a creaking floorboard. Because she knew that her father went to his counting house each morning, the princess was not worried about encountering him as she tiptoed stealthily down the wide stone stairs. The stone was chilly on her bare feet. Ordinarily, her feet were unclothed only when she bathed, and then only very briefly under the warmest of circumstances. But she liked the feeling of touching something true like stone. "I wonder what dirt would feel like," she said softly, even though no one was nearby. Tess, the chambermaid, had been left behind in the bedchamber, curled up with Alice in Wonderland, murmuring, "Blimey!" each time an amazing thing happened, which was every other paragraph. "I'm going now, Tess," the princess had announced. "I'm going to go do just what you suggested and tell the schoolmaster I am new to the village." "Blimey," Tess said, barely looking up. "Now she's got herself a cake that says 'Eat me.' And what happened to that rabbit, I ask you?" "I command you to listen to me for a moment." The chambermaid carefully marked her place with a finger and looked up. "My father is dead, and my ma a poor widow newly come to the village who does washing for lazy folk. I'll tell him that. Say pa, not father. Yes, of course, I almost forgot. My pa is dead, killed by, let me think, a wild boar." The chambermaid nodded. Her glance slid to the page. "And you promise that he'll take me as a pupil and give me a desk?" "Uh-huh." The princess glared at her. "I mean, yes, miss." "Oh dear, I hope I'm not forgetting anything important. I'll smear my feet with dirt on the path so they'll look like true peasant feet, humble and smudged. Are you certain it's all right if my cat comes with me?" The chambermaid shrugged. "Cats is everywhere. Nobody notices cats." "I'm so very excited." The chambermaid nodded and turned her eyes to the book again. "Aren't you excited also at such an adventure?" "Yes, miss, excited." The princess turned to leave. "Blimey," said the chambermaid, absorbed in the book, examining a drawing of Alice. "Now she's gone and grown huge." Although her father was, as she had predicted, in the counting house, the princess did encounter her mother, the queen, as she tried to creep away unnoticed. Queen Romelda Rebozo emerged from her private beauty salon on the second landing just as the princess was tiptoeing past. "Good Lord Almighty, what on earth have you done to your hair?" the queen bellowed. She always bellowed. It was because she was so deaf. The princess reached up and touched the end of an untidy pigtail. "It's the latest style," she explained to her mother. "It's rustic. Plastic? It certainly is not. Your father outlawed plastic years ago." The queen noticed the bare feet next, though the princess tried to crouch and cover them with her gathered skirt. "Oh, I see you're going bathing. That's why your hair is done up so oddly. But you should wear your bathing slippers, Patricia Priscilla. Don't catch a chill. 5 days until the ball. We need you healthy. You know what happens at the ball." She waited. "I said, you know what happens at the ball." The princess hadn't realized it was a question. "Music?" she replied to her mother. "Eh?" The queen cupped her hand beside her ear. "Who's sick, did you say?" "No one is sick." "What a foolish thing to say." "I said music," the princess shouted. "Indeed, full orchestra," the queen beamed. "Extra violins, and a dwarf who plays the bassoon. What else?" "Banquet food," the princess said. "Eh? Bank a few?" "What a foolish—" "Banquet food," the princess said again more loudly. "Oh, right, creamed pigeons to start, truffles and roast goat, salmon timbale, yeah, timbali, I think is what that's called, braised asparagus with pistachios, pickled turnips, artichokes stuffed with goose liver. Oh, pheasant breast en croûte." "Mother, I have to go. My toes are freezing." The princess descended a few steps. "What was that? Toast is easy? Who said it wasn't? We're not having toast. What a foolish thing to say." The queen tisk-tisked. And also, she went on, don't forget the most important thing. The princess at the foot of the stairs looked back. Her mother beamed down at her. What's that, Mother? Eh? What's the most important thing? Suitors, the queen bellowed. You'll be 16, marriageable. It's time for suitors. The princess scurried along, avoiding housemaids and polishing boys busy at their never-ending scrubbing and wiping and shining. She tried to put her mother's final word out of her mind. Suitors? The princess hated the thought of it. In the huge entry hall of the castle, she hung her cloak on an iron hook near a mounted stag's head. Then she pulled open the heavy carved oak door and went outside. Behind her, Delicious, the cat, slid out just before the massive door closed on her thick, yellow, very sensitive tail. There's the princess getting out of Dodge because she's kind of nervous about the idea of meeting suitors at the ball. It was not that the princess had never been outside before. On the contrary, as a younger child, she had often been taken out for an airing by her nursemaid, and the two of them had skipped and hopped, laughing on the finely mowed lawn beside the flower gardens. Now that she was older, the princess had often attended fetes and celebrations, sometimes at great distances to which she had traveled by the castle coach and its 4 magnificent, sleek brown horses who were decorated with plumes that bobbed with their heads. Sometimes, too, she had paid solicitous visits to the poor and downtrodden, accompanying her mother, the two of them followed by servants carrying baskets of nicely wrapped food and herbal medications. But this was different. Now she was barefoot, clothed only in an extremely humble frock. Now she was alone except for her thoughts. Suitors, she said to herself again with a shudder and her pet. Listen, Delicious. The two of them, Princess and Cat, cocked their heads and stood motionless, listening to the sound of the many birds that twittered and chirped in the trees. The cat's ears twitched. A small pink tongue emerged and licked thin cat lips. The cat's tail moved slowly back and forth. Don't be silly, the princess said, scolding her pet affectionately. Peasant cats eat birds, of course, because they are poor and hungry and have no choice. But you are a castle cat with sardines at your beck and call. Stop looking avarice, Delicious. The cat, knowing the princess was correct, was embarrassed and stilled her twitching tail. The pair strode quickly down the well-kept path that led to the castle entrance. In the distance, across the vast lawn, gardeners were trimming hedges and watering a bed of peonies. No one noticed the princess as she pushed open the scrolled iron gate and left the castle grounds. Outside, the path was no longer raked and neatly tended. Thick with dust and pebbles, it curved through the trees, and they followed it until the castle gate was out of sight behind them. Here the princess knelt and rubbed dirt under her feet. Look, now my fingernails are dirty too, she said, speaking to the cat as she often did, since she usually had no one else. I wonder if poor peasants have dirty fingernails. I suppose they do. And faces? Here, I'll smear some dirt across my cheek. She did so while the cat watched. Now I am perfectly disguised as a pitiful peasant, the princess said with satisfaction. Come along quickly, I don't hear the children playing anymore, and I think they must have gone into the school, so we should hurry. And no need incidentally to be surreptitious, Delicious. We blend in nicely. The cat followed her compliantly, though her attention was diverted now and then by things that rustled the bushes and tall grass bordering the path. Mice, chipmunks, a toad, a small green snake. Delicious yearned to prowl and pounce. Isn't this fun? The princess said as they made their way hastily along the path toward the little school. I am not one bit bored. All right, Chapter 6, The Schoolhouse. I'm a poor peasant girl only recently come to live in the village because my mother was killed by a wild boar and my pa has to take in washing. The princess stood nervously in the doorway of the schoolhouse. She looked down at her own dirty bare toes, then, because of the silence, back up at the face of the schoolmaster. His mouth was set in a line, and his forehead was furrowed. He looked very stern, just as Tess, the chambermaid, had described. The children, each one seated at a small desk, giggled. I said it wrong, she thought. I mean, my pa was killed, that's what, and it's my mother that has to take in washing. I mean my ma. And you would like to become a pupil? Yes. Yes, what? Yes, I would like to. He frowned and his forehead furrowed further. Yes, sir, is the response, he said sternly. The princess had never said yes, sir, to anyone in her life, but she imitated the chambermaid, bobbed in a curtsy, and murmured, "Yes, sir." "You're quite tall for a schoolgirl." What was the phrase the chambermaid had used? "I'm a great galoomph of a girl." The schoolmaster winced visibly at the phrase. "Please don't refer to yourself in that demeaning way," he said abruptly. Then his voice softened. "You are tall and slender as a young willow tree, supple and lovely. Remember that." She nodded. "Yes, sir, young willow tree." The schoolmaster looked around the room, and his gaze settled on one pudgy boy. "Fred," he said, and beckoned to the boy. "Yes, sir. Here's an illustration of the teacher and the pupils, including Princess Patricia Priscilla." He says to Fred, "Move that empty desk, the one in the corner, and place it at the girl's end of our semicircle." The boy obeyed and began to drag the desk to its place. "And I," the schoolmaster said, "will make a name tag for your desk. That is, if you will tell me your name, which you have so far neglected to do." "Blimey," the princess said aloud, imitating the chambermaid again. "I forgot." "Excuse me." The schoolmaster was as tall as his desk, holding his quill pen. "I forgot I had to have a name." He eyed her curiously. She cleared her throat. It's Pat," she said. "Quite a short name because I'm merely a humble peasant." "Well, that wasn't so hard, was it, to remember your own name?" He began to write the letters. "No." He looked up. "No what?" "No, it wasn't. No, sir." For the first time, the schoolmaster smiled slightly. Then he placed the name tag, which was carefully lettered, on her desk. He gestured to her to take her seat. When she was seated, he leaned forward and looked at her more closely. He sighed. "Your face is dirty," he observed, "and so are your fingernails." "Because I'm a poor peasant," the princess replied. "Everyone in this room is a poor peasant," he said sternly, "including me, but we are all clean." The princess looked around and saw that it was true. How had she gotten dirty? How had she gotten things so wrong? The other people's feet were dirty, all of them bare and coated with dust from the path. The schoolmaster wore high-topped suede shoes, but their faces were scrubbed. Her hair was brushed, and their fingernails were clean. "Go outside to the pump and wash," he told her. "Then come back quietly and take your seat for a spelling lesson. And," he added, "when you return, leave your cat outside." The cat had curled around her feet under the desk. Now opening both amber eyes at the sound of the word cat, Delicious yawned, stood, and followed the princess as she left the room. "You stay out here and lie in the sun," she told her pet as she dutifully cleaned her hands and face at the pump. "Wait for me. At the end of the school day, we'll go back to the castle and I'll summon your nice sardines for supper." She stroked the furry neck briefly. The banished cat yawned and looked around, then extended the claws of all 4 feet, trying them out because they had never been used for anything but beyond dismantling embroidery. Now above, a nest of plump and tasty-looking baby wrens was clearly visible. Across the schoolyard, the cat perceived an amazing small rodent of some sort nibbling on a fern. The tip of a rough pink glistening tongue emerged. The princess could almost read her cat's mind. "Don't be malicious, Delicious," she commanded and shook her finger in warning. Then she left the cat there and returned, scrubbed clean, to the schoolroom. "Oh, it was lovely, Tess, just lovely," the princess said at the end of the day back in her chamber. "We had poetry and penmanship, and in geography I learned the names of all the domains in alphabetical order." "Domains, miss?" The chambermaid reclothed, finishing buttoning her dress, and reached for the stretched apron that had lain all day folded on the damask chair. "You know, other principalities and kingdoms. Fiefdoms, too. Places ruled by other royalty, not us." "Didn't even know there was other, miss." "Oh, of course there are tons. There's Analgesia, Bulimia, Cogulatia." She sat, then held out her left foot so that the chambermaid could lace and tie her shoe. "I'm reciting them alphabetically," she explained. "Dyspepsia," she said next. "I heard about that one," the chambermaid said. "There's a duke there." The princess made a face of disgust. "Duke Desmond, a face like a warthog. No other domain has a ruler so hideous." "Sorry to hear that, miss. Therefore, this foot's done. This foot's done. Hold up the other." The princess did so. "Why are you so sorry to hear about stupid old Duke Desmond? He never comes here." "Oh, but he will, ma'am. His name is on the list." What list? Is there a list of repulsive rulers? The princess laughed, then reached for her hairbrush. The chambermaid bit her lip uneasily. Maybe I shouldn't have said, miss. There's a list in the kitchen so's cook can plan the food, a list of who's coming to your birthday ball. Angrily, the princess flung the silver-backed brush to her bed. Her cat, lying there, looked up, startled. Oh, don't be so suspicious, Delicious, the princess said in an irritated voice. I wasn't aiming at you. Why would that warthog be invited to my ball? The chambermaid looked very nervous. She curtsied and began to edge herself towards the door. You know something I don't know. Tell me at once. This is a command. The chambermaid curtsied again and whispered it. He's a suitor, miss. He's on the suitor list. No, the princess gasped in horror. Yes, miss. Are there others? Who else is on the list? I need a minute to think, miss. The chambermaid closed her eyes and tried to see the list in her mind. Duke Desmond of Dyspepsia. You said that already. The warthog. Who else? Prince Percival of... Oh no, the princess wailed. Of Pestula? Not him. He's dandruff, and he oozes foul-smelling hair oil. She flung herself onto her bed. The cat hopped down in dismay and moved to the window seat instead. Anyone else? The princess asked with a groan. Just one, miss. It's an old one, though, because it says 2 names together. Let me think. You don't need to. 2 names together means only one thing. The princess was speaking now in a resigned voice, as if she had no more groans or wails left. It's the Lords Colin and Cuthbert, the conjoint, isn't it? Yes, miss, that's it. I knew it. My mother finds them fascinating because they're attached together. But they're coarse and rude. They bicker continuously, and they belch too, and reek. They never bathe because no tub fits them both at once. Miss, the chambermaid asked timidly, may I go, please? It's close to supper time, and I want to be there to watch the pulley boy. The pulley boy. I suppose he's on your list of suitors. Oh, no, miss. Only joking. Go on. I'll see you in the morning. Be here early. I was late for school today. I want to arrive on time tomorrow. Miss, the chambermaid looked surprised. You're going back? The princess propped herself up against the pillows. Of course I am. My first day as a peasant was the loveliest day I've ever had. I was not bored for a minute. The schoolmaster's stern, though, the chambermaid pointed out. A little, but handsome. The chambermaid wrinkled her face. Handsome? No, miss, he ain't. Not at all. He's a very fierce face. Perhaps, but it appealed to me. Do you know his name, Tess? I asked him, but he said we should just call him schoolmaster. Tess nodded. It's a foreign name. Herr Goodman. He's far away. They say he comes from a noble family. He's from far away. That's odd, said the princess. He said he was a peasant. Not him, miss. Maybe he likes to pretend it. He did wear shoes, now that I think about it. Please, miss, it's time for me to go below stairs. The princess laughed. To see your pulley boy. All right, Tess, run along. Tess closed the door to the bedchamber behind her. Through it, she heard the princess mutter, Suitors schmooters. Okay, so we're going to stop there, and we will continue next week with Chapter 7 of The Birthday Ball. I hope that you're enjoying this so far. If you have any comments or questions about the book, please feel free to comment on our Facebook page, where we're going to share the YouTube link as always. So stay tuned for the next reading of a few more chapters of this book next week. Have a great weekend.